we gotta have industry merch now, right? We're gonna have hoodies, maybe like a Double R Express hoodie.
That's the second time I used that today.
I love that.
I love that idea. We gotta raise the cap.
I think where Rolf is coming from is like some people, because of it, don't even try.
You're going on the grind. You're going out there. You're trying to learn something different. You're putting in the time, right? But what happens if you don't get an opportunity? ¿Qué lo que, mi gente? El productor. Oh, we're going in English. Yo, what's up, Reyes?
Back, baby.
This is what I'm talking about. Hoodie. You know,
He got the memo last week.
He got the memo.
I kind of messed up.
Yo, what's up?
Reluctantly, I changed my clothes, but it's okay.
Oh wow.
It's all right, man. I like to be. I like my vest, bro.
It's cool.
You guys don't like the vest?
I thought it was nice.
It was nice. I think you made an impression.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Vest is okay.
It fit the episode.
Yeah, the episode was.
Yeah,
but the episode was like very uptight, you know. But it was a good episode.
It was a little tight,
bro.
You guys gotta loosen up, man.
I'm still thinking about the $6,500.
Nah, I don't want to go back there, bro. I don't want to go back there. All right, yo, what we talking about today, Jay?
Yo, I heard. I heard about
you. Throw it at me though.
Wait a minute, I heard about y'all, man. I wasn't invited.
You weren't invited?
Nah, you guys are some like real.
Well, wait.
Feeling some type of way about that.
Yo, but dale un chance, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Yo, y'all coming for my neck today, bro.
He was about to answer the question without a question. ¿Y qué lo de este tigre, bro?
So I heard y'all had dinner with the mayor last night.
Oh, that wasn't last night. It was a couple weeks ago, but yeah.
A couple weeks ago.
It was like a week, 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Oh, 2 weeks?
Which mayor?
Whatever. The mayor of New York City, man.
Yeah.
Y'all making money, bro. Y'all making some money.
Coming up.
You were there, Jay.
Come on,
Industreet's coming up. How was that, bro?
Was cool,
Talk
man.
to
That
me,
was
man.
that was
Cool
cool.
dude or what?
That was cool. We had we had the opportunity to be invited to a little soiree.
Okay.
And the mayor happened to be there.
Nice.
You happened to be there.
Yeah. That was cool, man. That was
Y'all
cool.
forgot about the Double R Express, though. Y'all didn't say, hey.
He got heat.
Wait, let's go back a little bit. Jay Diamond, which got scared after we were going to bring a stripper pole.
Okay.
So now he don't call himself Jay Diamond
Definitely
no more.
not.
Right? But the Double R Express, there's something
I like
there,
that
bro.
one.
You like
I
that
like
one?
that
You know, you're the second person to tell me that.
We
today.
gotta come up with we gotta have
Nicknames?
industry merch now, right? We're gonna have hoodies, maybe like a Double R Express hoodie
Double R Express.
with the Industreet logo on it, you know.
Yeah, that's the second time I used that today.
I
by
love
the way.
We gotta
that.
raise some
I love
cap.
that idea.
We gotta raise some cap.
Nah. So back to this, man. I
Oh,
want to
yeah,
know,
my bad,
bro. I
my
want to
bad.
know, like, you
It
know,
was
how'd
cool,
that
bro.
go?
It was
Good.
cool. It was cool.
Yeah. What'd you learn?
You know what's crazy? That I think, and I think since we were all us three were there together, we got a different perspective. Like, you know, sometimes what you see in the media, they portray something, and then like, you know, he was talking, and I was like, wow, I didn't get that.
They got some
from the
pics?
fans. Huh?
They got some photos?
Yeah, we got some photos.
yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
got
Good.
Yeah.
Nah, that's awesome.
I like how you put it, right? So sometimes it's basically
How did he put it, Jay?
that, you know, the media sensationalizes things.
Oh,
you know what I
Jelly, how
mean?
Jelly put it.
Yeah, so I think that before you start judging the book, you got to get to know it. You got to get to read it, right?
Yeah,
And
but
I think it was a good opportunity for us to be able to, number one, start, you know, getting associations with some individuals that it puts a different exposure.
Okay.
And it elevates the platform. So I think it was a good time, and I think there's gonna be a lot more meetings like that in which we're gonna be bringing in the Double R Express.
I hope so,
Right,
man.
you know.
I promise I won't embarrass you guys. I promise.
Nah, typically,
busting
you
these
know,
chops.
Double R
What do you
Express
think,
is the
Ray?
one bringing us there. You know?
For real.
Now, what do you think, Ray? Well, tell me about
No, it was
what
cool.
that was like.
It was cool. It was there was a lot of small business owners there, a lot of entrepreneurs, old school, new school. It was cool. To Jay's point, to Jelly's point, you know, you see something, obviously, right? When you're able to have a conversation, it's like, you know, when people see Argelis or Jay, they think they stuck up and shit, right? But if you have a conversation with them, you know,
I don't know.
right? No. But
I've had that reputation.
we had some good conversations.
Bella.
A couple things that kind of sparked my curiosity about what he said was that there's something called like the New York Times belt, right?
Okay.
In
I had
belt?
no clue.
The
power hitters. I had no
I think
idea.
it's so it's kind of like it's
certain sections
where
of the city.
right, certain neighborhoods in the city where they have high readers or readership,
The New York
whatever
Times,
you call it, of the New York Times, Cobble Hill, Park Slope,
Upper
West Side, a couple neighborhoods right out. You obviously those are money neighborhoods for the most part.
Of course, it's most wealthiest in the city.
And no New York City mayor had won without winning in those neighborhoods, right?
Yep.
And Adams lost in all of them.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. I was like, so, and then he talks about how diverse his administration is, right?
Mm-hmm. Diversity.
Yeah, it's very diverse.
Intentionally, or because these are the most talented people he can find.
Well, we're gonna get into that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
we're gonna get into that. But he spoke about first Spanish-speaking NYPD commissioner. Mm-hmm. He has a Dominican deputy mayor. He has a Filipino,
Pakistani,
Middle
Eastern.
Oh wow,
right?
Georgian, I think he said, right? Georgian.
No, there was a guy that was from Georgia there.
Yeah, he has Middle Eastern.
There was a guy that was named George who's from Georgia. For real? No,
I'm George from Georgia.
But yeah, bro, to your point.
Yeah.
And I know why you brought that shit up, because you want to get into that debate that you and I were going back and forth with, right?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, sort of, but not really. Like, I feel like I think yesterday you guys had a great dinner, right? Or whatever day it was. I'm sorry, guy. I'm terrible with dates. Yes. But either way, the way I see it is that you guys, it's a cool thing to be in that room, right? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to just know about it. I've gone to a bunch of fundraisers. I've actually, got to a fundraiser with him as well, and just got to shake his hand and took a picture with him too. But I never got the intimate moments like you guys did, and got to really pick his brain on what vision he has for the city, right? Which obviously we love New York. We're New Yorkers at heart. Although Jelly, moved, and so did you actually. Yeah. Word, bro.
The hook keeps on calling, bro.
Huh?
I'm not that far away. I'm like,
you're not.
Bro,
you're close.
You're
bro, stop it.
Anyway, we're going back. So yeah, we don't want to get off, but yeah.
Don't time out.
Back to that diversity piece. How important is diversity? Like, how important is that? Is diversity like a requirement?
But why do you ask that question?
Is that a requirement?
Yeah,
or no?
but you asked the question, and the way you asked the question was loaded, bro. Like, you come out here and say, "Oh, is it because they were the most talented people, or is it because?"
I don't know. Tell me out.
He's intentionally being diverse.
I feel like Ray sometimes be just rehearsing.
No, I don't.
Like,
he
comes
asking.
in with some heat, but it's very good, bro.
No, because that DEI thing to me is a hot topic right now.
Talk about what the hot topic. Yeah, what's the DEI?
It's a diversity, equity and inclusion, right?
Right, but there was a whole debate that sparked with
Harvard,
with the Harvard president. I don't
was
know.
Was it Bill Ackman? I think it was Bill Ackman, one of these billionaires that addressed
I don't know, but she resigned, right? And then the whole alumni, which I think it's the Harvard alumni is like 400,000 people, right? Which when you look at it as a nation is a drop in the bucket, but it's 400,000 probably very influential people, right? Who are in positions that to be very influential. A lot of these high level execs and high level entrepreneurs, etc. So the debate came about of this whole DEI thing, right? Should it be a thing, right? Should we have protocols in place to really promote diversity and inclusion in the workplace or in any place or in universities, right? In campuses. A lot of these high net worth individuals, typically white, right, have said that it's BS, right? That we don't need that, right? Because you're forcing situations where the culture should be, let's just go after the most talented individual. Period.
100%.
Right? So you say 100% like you agree with it.
I agree.
Okay.
With that. The cream rises to the top, man. Okay. I think that's
okay. So let me ask you this. If we're put in a situation where if it doesn't matter, if the cream rises to the top, then why do you have an issue with having programs that promote that? Because if they rise to the top, then you shouldn't have a problem with a program like that being instituted. Right?
Correct.
Because the program doesn't tell you.
It shouldn't bother you.
Right. The program doesn't tell you need to have this percentage of diversity. Right. It does try to set parameters or a culture.
What's your stance on it, Ray?
Well, no, I don't have a stance yet.
You don't.
We in the street. I have a stance, but I'm not gonna say I have a stance.
That's part of your final thoughts,
right? But my point is, if the cream rises to the top, then who cares? Who cares what parameters are set or what culture is set in place, right? Like in the NFL, I think is it the Rooney Rule, right?
Yeah, but I believe that the DEI, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a part of it was the reason where it's most known from is from academia. Like it was installed as a affirmative action to give the opportunity to minorities to get into certain particular
Ivy Leagues for the most
yeah,
part.
Ivy Leagues, right? So and which it kind of has its advantages and disadvantages, right? But it does provide the main idea of the concept, which is bringing minorities into these opportunities so they can blend in and elevate. That's from where it stands from. But when it was conducted, it would transition over to the corporate sector, right?
Which is like equal opportunity employer.
Exactly.
Right?
Which is kind of like, all right, I see both sides of the coin, right? It's kind of like, here is Reyes, resume is intact, best fit for the role, but because I have to fit into a census, here is, I don't want to use AJ, right? But I don't want to use Jelly, but let's say Jonathan, all right? Here's Jonathan, not so fit as Reyes is, but because I have to fill that census,
checks a box.
I will give you the opportunity.
Right.
And it's disadvantageous to the corporate sector, but I find it to be advantageous to the academia.
Do you really think that happens though?
I believe 1,000%. It used to happen. I don't know if it has still happened so much, but back a few years ago, I think it was more prevalent than it is at the current moment.
I think it happens. I've seen it happen.
It might have to be probably as large as a
Say where you saw it. Say it. Say where you saw it.
Where you saw it? Where you saw it? Where you saw it?
No. It's happened, and in certain situations, you know, you do see it's like, okay, some people are more qualified, and it's like, you know, we went this way, and they're not gonna tell you,
right?
And you've seen, like, you look at the surrounding. Okay, I see what the setting is. Okay, this person is a bit fits the description as to the, you know, DEI. So it's like, okay, you know, I think that in my opinion, yes, we are correct where you can say, you know, us blacks and browns, in certain cases we don't get certain opportunities. But if it were a flat level playing field, which we're not, I really believe that, you know, it should be for the person that is more qualified for the job. And that can do the job instead of you trying to just fit, you know, that check
who's gonna get shit done.
Yeah.
Well, look, I agree.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but I think I agree with you. I think it happens. I think that definitely, you know, there's criteria and metrics that got to be met. At the end of the day, we also need to kind of help ourselves a little bit, you know. There are going to be things that are unfair. There's going to be things that you get kicked around a little bit. I mean, it's happened to me personally, you know. But I think getting a little bit away from that victim mentality, I think, is important to empower our community more. You follow what I'm saying? Like, that's really what we need to do. We need to find ways to empower us versus, you know, and if something's wrong, we should be able to call it out. Like, hey, man, I'm more qualified than that person you just took on over here.
Yeah.
And here's why, right? And that's how the process should play out. Like, I don't want a job that I know this other guy's better than me, but you took me because you're trying to satisfy a number. I don't want that job. You follow what I'm saying?
Right, but hold on.
Yeah.
Right? Because you talk about, like, the problem is that let's say the problem is solved. Let's say discriminatory practices are non-existent, right? In the workplace, in schools, etc., right? Yeah. Let's say they're not anymore, but they were. We could all sit at this table and acknowledge that there were,
no doubt about
or there is. We could debate that, but we can say with certainty, obviously there was slavery, right? Obviously there was segregation. That's fact. That's not something that you could question. That's not like something that's made up, right? Like that, Jim Crow, et cetera, et cetera. That wasn't too long ago, guys, right? That was in the 60s. You still had a huge civil rights movement, right? So if that existed, that atmosphere, that environment created situations where most of the high-level positions, right, most of the landowners, most of the company founders, most of the people that had opportunities to better education were whites, right? So most of the boardrooms, most of these people in positions are still white, right? And what happens is that if we start a company, right, culturally, we understand our people better, right? It's the same culture, right? You gravitate towards that type of person. The white people also gravitate to their type of, it's their culture, right? or for whatever reason, their culture could be stained with racism, right? Because it's their culture. So if you don't set parameters, if you do not set mechanisms to counter that effect, no matter cream rises to the top or not, you're going to have a disadvantage if you're a person of color. You're going to have it because the history that we're coming from, right? It put us in a situation whether the people sitting in positions of authority mean to or not, the system is just that way. You mentioned something in the last episode, how, the rate of denied applications for mortgages, right, with black and browns versus white is almost double in the black and brown communities.
It's not double, but it's higher.
It's almost double, right? You could say 30 something percent higher, right?
Well, yeah, okay.
Right? So 30 something percent higher. Okay, not double. Well, and you still say that the parameters and qualifications are the same for both groups. But why is there that discrepancy, right? Because you have less opportunities. Yeah. So if we could identify a problem and we could say, hey, we have less opportunities, then we should mitigate that by instituting practices that counter that, right? Like, I forget who this was, but it's a government, I think the Secretary of State or in the State Department, there was a practice to promote into certain high-level positions into not posting those positions. So it was about who you knew or who knew you.
Well, that's a known practice, right?
Like that. But my point is, if that's the standard, and if you don't go in there and say, hey, this can't be the standard because now people that are not in your immediate circle because of where their life comes from, they're not going to know that you have this position available.
So I mean, subjectively, that still currently takes place, I believe, in every single aspect in the corporate sector. Because before sometimes positions go listed, you already, that individual who's in that
when
position.
When it's already posted.
You're like, you subjectively, you already know this position is accounted for. But I need this through HR laws. Right. I need policies.
But then that law that forces you to, even if you have a candidate, that law that now you by law have to post a position is going to get you in front of a person that could be the cream that rises to the top. And if I say I'm going to hire Reyes, but because I have to post this position and now I'm forced to interview Jay, and Jay blows me out the water, guess what? That law or that mechanism worked.
It does. You may not get the role right away, but you could be the candidate for next in line, right?
It worked.
So why
it did its job.
So why are corporations pulling away?
Why? That's a great question. Why?
So it's a great question.
No,
that's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question.
But why?
I think that, again, on the pretense of like what Reyes is saying, some of the things that you said is kind of like, if the individual can get shit done, that you could get the job done and you fit the criteria, let's just put away from it. But again, it's kind of like, if this is not hurting you, why do you want to get rid of it, right?
Right.
Primarily, some of them, again, some of the CEOs felt like, no, bro, what are you talking about? I'm like,
you're agreeing with me. I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, all right. I mean, look, I take the stance of like, if it's not broken, why try to fix it, right?
No. Some people might tell you it is broken. That's why we're trying to fix it.
But I think that it's not a cookie cutter thing, right? It's like it depends into the CEO, because at the end of the day, it's your company, bro. Like, I mean, you're gonna hire whoever you think is gonna get the job done or what you need to be done, right?
I think in the spirit of capitalism. Right, and I'm all about capitalism. I really, I want to say that every company's gonna do the best thing for their specific company. Yeah, there are gonna be some injustices that take place. I kind of gotta agree with you. It sounds like you were saying you were heading more towards a place of the fragmentation, right? People naturally gravitate towards people who look, act, eat like them, right? And I mean, it happens, right? Yeah. Look at this table, right? We naturally gravitate to each other, correct? So it sounded like what you were telling me, what you were saying was that we need to probably stick together more, right? Together, everybody accomplishes more. And I think that way you can build something big where now you can start accomplishing things. Now, there's going to be situations where maybe you could reverse that whole DEI thing. You don't know.
Hopefully,
you never know.
Hopefully,
right?
we can.
But what I'm saying is that the victim mentality is the thing that I don't like about that.
I hate
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So that's the part that I really don't
agree
appreciate.
1,000%
that kind of brings you know.
1,000% with you. I think we all agree. But let's reverse engineer the thought. Let's say Ray is a CEO of this particular corporation, and you're a white person who happens to speak Spanish, right? And you could get the job done. You may not be 100% fluent,
but you get it done.
You get it done. But here I am, minority, who very fluent. Spanish language is my first. I'm just as good as it is. But because of DEI census, now Ray might have to fill in the job. Particularly, you might actually have something to fight there because you're like, yo, I speak the language, I have the criteria, but because I'm white, you're not hiring me. You know what I mean? So it could be both sides. That may be an anomaly, but situations like that happen, but they're more often happen in the academia sector than the corporate sector.
Nah, look, I think they happen everywhere. I think number one, we have to define what the mechanism is. What is DEI, right? Like
diverse, equity, and
I know the acronym, but what should it entail?
Let me ask you a question. Why is diversity important?
It's not that diversity is important or not.
You don't think it's important?
Hold on.
Very.
Not for the reasons that you're thinking. The reason why diversity is something that should be important is because if you're serving a community where you have different types of people, then the people at levels of authority should resemble the communities that you're serving.
But that's what I was thinking.
But again, it should resemble the communities that you're serving, right? So it's not about it. The problem is that it's disproportionate right now because of our history. So we have to acknowledge that. And I'm not saying that the current system is correct, right? I'm just saying we can't just say, when you say, I hate the victim mentality. I hate the victim mentality.
Correct.
Dude, listen, I also hate it. But you can't defend, oh, we don't need a system because we don't want to be victims. You can't defend that.
I think where Ralph is coming from is like some people, because of it, don't even try.
But that shouldn't be our issue.
No, but if you're the individual that says, you know what, I'm going to put my best effort forth.
Yeah.
And if I can do the job, if I'm qualified for it, if I don't get it now, at some point I'm going to get it because I'm determined to get it.
All right, so let me ask you this. If you're focusing on the person, you're focusing on the system, you're saying the system's broken because the system's going to create people that are going to be lazy. But I could say the system's good because it's going to give the opportunity for that person that you're mentioning right now that's going to go above and beyond and really work hard, right? Like I mentioned before, if you have to post a job now, somebody like you is going to say, I'm going to look for that job, I'm going to prepare myself, and I'm going to blow them out the water. If you're focusing on let's not have a system because it's going to create lazy people,
I'm not saying not have a system.
Then that person that's working hard is not going to have an opportunity to sit in front of the right person.
And just imagine that you've broken yourself. You worked hard. You've studied. You've done everything that's been asked of you, and you prepared. And then I'm like, so it's both ways. I think that there's a better way to manage this whole situation, but at the same time, like find a way to also propel.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of just satisfying a number.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how can we create more talent? How can we create better leaders?
Right.
You know? And
that's what the corporate sector should be doing.
100%.
Just concentrate a little bit more in terms of leadership programs and mentorship programs. I think that would be ideal, particularly if you do if you fall into that category of the DEI.
Well, these things should start in our communities. Like, once it gets that far, it's too late, right? These things should start in our communities that we want to label the way that we're labeling them. Yeah. Why aren't we doing more for that, right? And creating more leaders from there, from the beginning.
That's a very good question.
No, 100%.
Right?
100%.
Right?
And once you're there, too, it's like pull people along with you.
Yeah.
Mentor people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the key.
But you bring up a great point. And here's the thing, you got to bring people on. You got to put people on. We talk about putting people on all the time, right? We talk about, yo, dude,
100%.
I want to put my people on. I want to put people I grew up with on, right? I want to give those people the opportunity. And that's what all this is about. This is not about you have to use that as a crutch, like use that as an excuse why you're not successful, right? Yeah. This is about give us the opportunity to be successful.
Correct.
Right? Because I know a bunch of hardworking people. I know people that, like you said, you're putting in the hard work. You know, you're going on the grind. You're going out there. You're trying to learn something different. You're putting in the time, right? But what happens if you don't get an opportunity?
It's all about the opportunity, bro.
Right. And so, unfortunately, we got to a place as a society where mechanisms needed to be
Put in place.
So that everybody could get an opportunity, right? I get it, the system's flawed, and I get it that a lot of people use it as a crutch, right? Because you could use a lot of, it's like when you say, oh yeah, I'm all fucked up because of my parents, right? Like, oh, because of X, or because of Y, or because of Z. But then you get the people who had fucked up upbringings, and then they go out there and are very successful.
It's either you make moves or you make excuses.
They didn't let that roadblock stop them.
Right. But there are systems, right? Like, if we don't set the parameters,
it's also on the individual.
It's always on the individual.
Always on it. You gotta take responsibility.
It's always on the individual.
So you're gonna tell me, if I'm that type of individual that says, you know what, I apply. Let's say I applied for a position once. I never got.
I don't want to apply no more.
And it's because this and that reason, I'm not gonna apply no more.
Let me ask you this.
Now you have somebody that says, you know what?
But you have a lot of people like that too, as well.
I
don't want to get rejected. I don't like getting rejected.
You just can't focus on those people.
Yeah.
You got to focus on the people that are. Let's say this is a society. It's us four, right? I counted right? Right? It's us four, right? It's us four, right? And we are the authority. We're the authority. And Rob comes along, and we all know Rob, and there's a position, and we don't need to tell anybody that there's a position. Be like, yo, Rob, come through. We got you, right? And then we continue to build on that, and years pass, and we continue to have that same system, right? Eventually, that's going to create income inequality. That's going to create a lot of it's going to be a disproportionate society, right? Like, we're going to be able to grow our wealth because we can buy properties, we can buy land, we can invest in different types of business, right?
Holy crap.
But
you just sparked an idea. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
I like these types
Is
of
that
moments.
DEI culturally restricted? Is there specific cultures that do not embrace DEI?
There's a lot. You're talking about Asian. Yeah. DEI doesn't work for them, right? That's the argument. But my counter would be, well, equal opportunity. Yeah. The program is designed to be. It's not saying more blacks and browns. It's not saying more Jewish. It's not saying less white. It's saying equal opportunity. Yeah. Every organization should represent the community, right? So when I said if we're a society and years pass, right? What about every person that was as prepared as Rob, but never had an opportunity to interview with us for a position? So there was a need back then. Yeah. The question now is there still a need?
What about if you're an outsider, right, to a community? You come, let's say you move to North Dakota. Here comes a Spanish person, not, someone of,
You bring diversity into the community.
Yeah, but how does that change the equation?
Are you proving my point?
No, I'm asking.
My point? Because I feel like you're proving my point. If you have mechanisms in place for when I go to North Dakota, then I should be able to have the same opportunity.
Correct.
Right.
But if
you're not gonna get it.
But okay, so again, you guys are proving my point.
I mean, yeah, but you're saying you're supposed to be a representation of your community, right?
No.
So
no. What I'm saying is equal opportunity, diversity, and inclusion. It shouldn't matter. Unfortunately, we need. Again, I'm gonna go back to it. Mm-hmm. We've had history that pushed our society to have to implement. Bro, if these programs weren't implemented,
everybody will be pretty much the same.
Thank you.
And I think that we need diversity.
I agree with you 100%. But again, I think at the end of the day, right? We live in a city that's incredibly diverse. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it impacts us as much as it would in someone in North Dakota.
Agreed.
Or in a different state where, things might be a little different.
But there also has been a progression of the times, right? Because of the way that is currently the times that we live in right now, we're more diverse than we were 100 years ago or 70 years ago. And particularly also in terms of how blacks and browns have made an impact to the economy over the past couple of decades.
We're the largest demographic, we're the largest part of the population.
And now
so it's
my question would be more like the diversity over the past 2 or 3 decades on the economic impact. How has that influenced, right, white America or corporate America? Now, corporate and white America is a little more receptive. Why? Because Hispanics and blacks are now in a position more highly probably educated. Now they're bringing a different level of skill set. That they're bringing something. So my takeaway would be,
well, the spending power too,
exactly.
Right? Like, I mean, the spending power is astronomical,
exactly.
Right? Like,
so maybe affirmative action.
I mean, outside of the talent,
it is a good thing because it has proven to be able to contribute to the economy and elevate the diversity of the different socioeconomic groups as well as the cultural groups. You know, so I do believe that I think that if we take away diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're just gonna hurt. We're gonna hurt because now it will be a monotony. It will be everybody is pretty much the same. Now, do we need everyone to think like a Rafael Reyes? Do we need everybody? No. Why? Because that's the way that each person, each brain is their own world. Each individual is gonna bring a different set of ideas and creativity, and if we don't promote that, we will fail because our backgrounds, our cultural backgrounds is what's going to be the secret sauce to that. And by taking away from it, bro, I think it would just be a total disservice.
I'm with you on that, man. I mean, it's a necessary.
It's the danger lies in focusing on people who are going to be lazy or people who are not going to give it their all or use things as crutches or just come. They're going to be there regardless. Yeah. Right? The cream should rise to the top, right? The position should go to the best candidate, right? But if you're okay with saying the system's like, as a society, we're no longer prejudiced, or we no longer exclude any type of people from different backgrounds, then it shouldn't bother you that there's something let's call it a safety net. Let's call it a safety mechanism. What we should work to do is, number one, not tie metrics to it, because that's where it
don't tie metrics.
Agreed.
Do not.
Okay.
Because I can't say, well, company A is bad because 35% of their thing is X type of group, right? What we need to do is DEI, equal opportunity employers, should be cultural. It should be culture. Mm-hmm. It should be the same way you can create a compliance culture in a company, the same way you can create, a company of loose or a strict company, or formal or informal. It should be a culture, a company culture. Like we're all in highly regulated industries, right? Compliance is huge. Yeah. You have a compliance department, right? That the primary job of the compliance department, number one, is checks and balances, make sure everything is being done the correct way, but also creating programs to promote the culture of compliance, right? Like they're always talking about, like, even as a city, if you see something, say something. That's just creating cultures, right? So I think that's what we should work on creating a culture of diversity and inclusion, as opposed to, setting metrics, because that's where it gets dangerous. Because if I happen to get 3 candidates who are white, who were the best candidates, I shouldn't be afraid to hire them.
There you go.
I shouldn't be afraid to hire them because they were the best. But everybody should have an opportunity to sit in front of me. So that's why we need them. Unfortunately, we're not in nirvana yet. We're not in the place where it doesn't exist. I've experienced it. I'll speak for myself. I've experienced it. I think everybody at this table has experienced some type of prejudice or racism or anything, right? Like, it's easy for somebody who's never experienced it to say that program is bullshit. It has no place being here because we don't have slaves anymore. We're not a racist society anymore. Yeah. That's bullshit because we still are. We still are. Still exists. Not everybody is, but it still exists. So as long as it exists and we're not in this a nirvana place or whatever you want to call it, we need checks and balances. The same way we need police forces, right? Because although we want to say we're a safe side, there's still criminals out there. Mm-hmm. So what do we do if there's criminals? We institute a program. We institute a department of policing. Yeah. Period.
Enforcing the law.
That's it.
That's pretty much it. Final thoughts.
No,
Final thoughts, Johnny.
That's Ray hit it on the he hit the nail on the head. It's something that's gone on for years. There's no scripted let's say fix to it. I do believe, if you are a person that is, qualified, if you are, someone who's a subject matter expert at a certain thing, you should have that opportunity. Yeah. I don't think there should be limitations to that. That's my thought.
Agree. Jay, final thoughts?
I think that very much the baseline, it should be there. I think it should continue to be there. Like you say, if it's not hurting, why remove it? It's only going to make the organization better. It's only going to make the academia better. So, and it's only going to make society and the country better. So this is the reason where we are as minorities. And this is the reason as why minorities is becoming a majority.
And they have worked those programs because we have had opportunities.
Because otherwise, none of us would have been here, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that it's a proven fact. Keep it.
Reyes, final thoughts?
100%. I mean, look, it's again, maybe I'd like to again, create, if what we're trying to do is inherently have a situation of equity and inclusion, we should really start at the root, the root issue. We should try to again get to places in the communities where we feel we have the gaps, right? Why are we just stopping at the workplace?
Right.
Why are we starting at? We should start sooner.
I agree.
I
agree.
I mean, if the federal government wants to incorporate these things, then we need to do things to help create. At some point, maybe that's not even a question of equity and inclusion, right? Maybe you never know, right? The one thing is that it if we're able to at some point, everyone.
Do you think that maybe that's due to the fact in corporations and academic societies is because there's a certain financial incentive? And like in the communities, how do you tie that to an incentive? You know what I mean? Like I could see it that it's going that way. Not that it's going that way, but it's easier to label. Like you can't really prove it in a community where you go to a bodega and say, oh, I'm not seeing this here. But in a company, you can easily say.
I think that in different ways it could be promoted. Whether like if the community wanted to, like if the city wanted to promote diversity, and equity, and inclusion, that they do it through business grants, right? Like grants for minorities, grant for women, and things like that. Like those are things that are already currently existing in their communities. Now the question is, are people taking advantage of it? That's a different story, right? And it boils down to like the individual to say, if I'm the best fit for this opportunity, let me run with it. If I'm someone that I just want to live off the system, those things are going to happen. Mm-hmm. Again, the cream rises to the top as long as there's some fire in their asses.
I mean, look, it goes beyond that. And I think that there's a lot of things that happen that we don't always associate to income inequality. But like, let's say you're a developer, right? And you want certain tax incentives, right? Mm-hmm. And the city tells you, well, okay, you want tax incentives? X percentage of your units has to go to affordable housing, right? Those are good things, they are. Right? Because now you're placing people
it's good. It's good things depending on how much affordable housing you're putting in that mix.
Right. Okay.
Right. Like
that's one
if
thing
not,
I would say. Not that you're gonna break the developer's back and make a project.
Well, the developer might develop and say, okay, I'll take all these tax breaks. But what I'm trying to say is that if you put an entire building full of the same, economic profile, there's no growth there, right? Who, you know what I mean? You need to have a blend of different types of
100%, right. Yeah, like if they tell you, hey, affordable, 10% of the units have to be affordable housing.
Low, let's say low, and then
low, medium, whatever,
medium, and then high, and then free market.
But now you're now right. Everybody has an opportunity to be privy to an environment that they probably wouldn't have.
Well, proximity's power, right? You in the elevator, you're in a beautiful building. Yeah, maybe your rent is lower. Maybe but guess what? You might just bump into a guy who's at a startup and needs a boom, and there you go.
You might, in other words, in the street talk, bro, because we got to wrap it up. You might bump into the plug in the elevator.
That's my point.
Exactly. Small talk is key.
So small talk is key, right? Because I could be like, yo, Jay, let me ask you something. You grew up in Corona. we're doing XYZ there. What do you think is better, X or Y?
Oh my God, Ray, you should come
but
upstairs.
But let's ask a question though. So that plug that you meet in the elevator, what is gonna probably be one of the requirements that plug is looking for?
That you're able to perform.
That you can perform, and that you're eager, and that you're prepared.
And you're prepared, of course.
Right? Like these are the things these are fundamental, foundational pieces that we need to teach.
Right.
Right. Well, that we need to teach.
I agree. But if there aren't programs, if there are not programs that force that situation to happen in a sense, you can create a bubble where that person, that little kid from Corona is never gonna have the opportunity.
I guess my final thought is this: that the issue is bigger than just DEI. Yes, that's an issue,
Agreed.
But it's much bigger than just that.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Right?
I get what you're trying to put down.
It's big. Yeah, we need to do that, but the problem is much deeper.
Right. I think,
and we should be more proactive in that regard as well. Agreed. Just as proactive as we are in all the other areas.
Agreed.
This was an awesome episode, guys. You know what? Stay tuned. Catch us next week. We got some more fire for you guys. That's always.
Let's go.
It's a wrap. It's in the street, baby.